Hey folks, well, I was having trouble getting this thing going, so I'm gonna take a quick break and I'll meet you soon. Alright, we got 9 viewers, that's good, that's enough to get started. Hello. Alright, so this is the way it's gonna work out. I know that there's a delay in the feed, like a 20-second delay. So I'm gonna get started. I'm gonna look at each piece in turn, and while I'm talking, you folks can be see, hello everybody. Okay, so while I'm talking, you guys can use the chat to make your comments and suggestions and encouragements, and by the time I'm done rambling, whoopsie, by the time I'm done rambling, we can review your responses. Alright, so give me a new window right here. Alright, let's go to our D2L site. Hello everybody. Hello Abby. Hello Aura Master. Okay, Nick. Okay, welcome Nick. Welcome Skylar. Welcome Ash. Welcome Madeline. Welcome Alicia. Welcome all yous, if I missed your name. Stefan, welcome, welcome, welcome. Alright, so we need to get into the drawing class here. Everyone can hear me, right? Yeah. Heyo. Alright, so let's have a look at this Dropbox. Let's see. Alright, lots of stuff. Great. Well, let's get into it right at the top. Let's start with Madeline. Nice. Let's see if we can full screen this. Let's see. Download. There we go. Open that. Might have more functionality. Okay, enough farting around. Let's just open this up again. Allow. What else? Okay. Now, looking at this, this has a really good sense of perspective. Um, in other words, I believe that these little islands or little mounds of land are really decreasing in scale. Really nice bark textures, really nice grass in the foreground, and I really like the soft way you let things kind of get blurry, bleed out as they recede. Even in the water, we can see the horizontal strokes um, are getting more and more diffuse as they go back. So you've done the wet into wet um, aspect very well. In my opinion, maybe the atmospheric perspective could be a little bit more forceful, a little bit more um, intense or deliberate looking. So if that little strip of land back here wasn't the same value as the land in the foreground, we would feel a lot more air. You have a really nice sense of air in the sky. Notice how it begins dark on the fringe and gets lighter at the horizon. That's the way the sky really looks. If you look straight above your head during the day, in the middle of the day, you'll notice that the sky blue of the sky is darkest immediately above your head because that's where the atmosphere is thinnest from your perspective. If you look towards the horizon, you're looking through um, way more atmosphere. So, what did you folks say? Yes, yes, yes. Very nice. Nice. Dang it. Okay. Um, nice. Really like the water values. Very good, Ash. Very good. Um, and notice the way that they zigzag, but they're covering so much horizontal traction as they go up. That's why the plane feels like it's flat and receding from us in a horizontal fashion. Great. This worked out wonderful. So, good job, Madeline. The grass in the foreground is on point. Yes, very pointy. Yeah, there's the linear perspective. Well, the foreshortening that really drives the point home. So the tree is nice and it does get cropped off, but it's interesting that you chose grass as your foreground positioning device, but it does exactly what it's supposed to do. Comes up from the edge of the composition, it's cropped off. Okay, wonderful. Skylar, well, whoopsie. Stop it now. Let's download it. Alright. Alright, Skylar, let's look at that. Now, is the blue a result of your ink or the camera? Because I'm kind of liking the kind of navy blue nature of it. Um, Good atmospheric perspective. There's definitely a big difference between between that tree and the mountain in the foreground. I'm really interested in these strokes here. Is that sgraffito? I forgot to include that in the demo. I'm so sorry. But if you make a wash and then come into it with a pointy object like the reverse side of your brush and scratch into the paper, then that wash is going to settle into that scratch and make it darker and produce linear effects kind of like this. So, camera and lighting, very good. How about, okay, let's see if you answer the sgraffito question. Love the darkness contrast within the trees in the foreground. Yes, ma'am. A clear terminator as well. We can see definite light planes and shadow planes. That's all really good. That gives the whole thing a lot of volume. Maybe, oh, I see. That's the cast shadow. Great. I think the cast shadow could have been a bit more diffuse. That would tell us for certain that one is solid and one is more of a play on light. So sky, yeah, the sky's really good. We were just mentioning how the sky is darkest immediately above your head, and we're definitely getting that illusion here. Cast shadows are really nice. Yes, they are. Yep. How did you? Let's see. I was texturing the ground. Okay. So take that. Well, take that bit of knowledge to heart. Again, sorry I didn't show you guys what sgraffito is, but it would produce an effect sort of like this. I hear my dog. She wants outside, so I'm gonna give you guys a second to chat amongst yourselves. Alright guys, sorry about that. My dog is old and she's incontinent, so I gotta let her out as soon as I hear her if I don't want to clean up a mess later. Alright, good job on the mountains fading. Let's move on. Good job, Skylar. Clap, 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 everybody. Alright, good job, Madeline. Good job, Skylar. Alicia. Let's have a look at Alicia's piece. Oh wow, look at that. Nice. Let me try and there should be a keystroke to full screen this. Zoom. Let's see. Well, let's just do that then. Okay. Can I shoot? You're not helping at all, computer. And escape is not letting me. Okay, exit full screen. Okay, I'm gonna have to do something drastic here. Dump it. Just dump it. Okay, oh, there we go. Way to go, Grandpa. Finally figured out the technology. F11, right? Yes. Zoom. Is this it? Yeah, perfect. I figured it out. Now, textures, as far as textures go, you are really mastering the purpose of textures. The dirt in the foreground and the tree line especially along the mountains. Look how just effortlessly she gets that. I wonder if that's actually spraying. Let's have a good close look at that. Nice. Yeah, that's just a quick jab with the brush, isn't it? Good job. Now, I'm wondering if this here is glare off the ink, which can happen. The solution to that when you're photographing art is to make sure that the light's coming from the side at a 45-degree angle, because light bounces away at the exact but opposite inverse angle it came in. So if it's coming in at 45 degrees, it's going to reflect out at 45 degrees. If you're shooting down with a light immediately above your head, then that glare just bounces straight up into your camera. So there's some advice. And if you're having trouble getting flat enough lighting, try sunlight. Try photographing your work outside when the sun is out. You can't get much more flat than that. So if the sun's coming in at an angle, that should give you really nice results. I love the soft transitions, the soft gradients on the mountains. They still kind of have that grain, so it still feels like the same kind of tree texture, just on a smaller scale. Really nice rocks. Look at that sky. I just now noticed the sky. Now, notice how bright the sun seems right here, even though we can't see it. She achieves that through sheer contrast here. You see the darkest clouds in the sky are right here immediately in front of this really glaring bright spot. So the sheer contrast is describing light, bright light. If you want to make light seem bright and harsh and hurting your eyes, the only way to do that achromatically is sheer contrast. But you didn't overblow it, right? You didn't go in too dark to where that doesn't feel like distant clouds. If you went too dark, it might feel like, you know, a branch coming in from the side. So that being said, perhaps this mountain here could have been a lot lighter. I see you're really showing us a nice atmospheric perspective in these mountains, but we don't want the value between the cactus and the mountain to be identical. We want there to be this foreground mountain to be a good in-between step between the cactus and the next mountain. Let's see what you guys are saying. All right, the texture on the cactus is really good. Yeah, the linear grooves are really well placed and really carefully plotted out. Really good line quality. Where'd you learn that? Love the sky. Yes, 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 ma'am. Thanks, Bob Ross. Are you... Okay, I'll take that as a compliment. The light in the sky is nice. Oh yeah, very good. The mountain has great variation of shades. Yes, it does. And it really helps us understand kind of the planes of the mountain. We understand which planes are facing straight up, like this plane here in the foreground. We also understand which planes are more vertical, like that one there. And notice even the mountain sort of has well, I guess the Terminator wouldn't be there. Okay, I see what you're doing. You know what? This dark edge here, I'm not going to say doesn't belong there at all, just if it was a lighter value, because what I just mentioned about the contrast of the clouds also applies to the mountain. That's I'm appreciating now that's part of the whole harsh contrast in this area is the dark mountain. That being said, still, if it was just a bit lighter than the cactus and these trees in the foreground, that's my suggestion. Great. Moving on. All right. Great job, Elisa. All right. Nicholas, batter up. I should probably just click the JPEG name, right? All right, full screen. Great. I forgot to show you guys how to crop and kind of distort the perspective on your photos in order to correct for any foreshortening or any parallax, any skewed parallax. We'll do that next time. On Thursday we have a drawing demo for 1-point perspective. So we'll head it off at the top with a quick Photoshop demo on correcting perspective in your photo. All right. Oh, here's some glare again. Again, the same applies. This seems like it's coming from the flash of the camera. That's an important point. You don't want to use your flash when you're using ink or graphite. Even charcoal can give off a reflection. That's sort of, in a nutshell, exactly the angle of light problem I was talking about earlier. The flash is right next to the lens, so it's really just giving you primarily glaring reflective light. So again, make sure it's a light source far away from your lens and that it's coming in at a 45-degree angle. Textures are good. Perhaps the atmospheric perspective in the trees could be a bit more sequential. The features or the shadows in the foreground here seem identical to that one. This tree I can see is beginning to fade. I think if this foreground tree was more on the order of that one, and then they would die off even more, because it seems like that's happening in the atmosphere around the background. You see there's very little contrast in this area, but we still get the suggestion of with this dark value here that we have a sort of a grove of bushes kind of receding away here, and then a hill, and then maybe some trees back behind that. It's all really well suggested in the direction of your brush strokes, And the fact that all the values are so close and analogous to one another gives us that sense of atmosphere in between, and that sense of that all gives us kind of that really nice sense of fuzziness or loss of focus in the background. So that's a great example that you can do blurriness two types of ways. You can do it the kind of photographic way, the way we would expect soft focus to look with gradient diffusions, or you could go painterly and just brush with thicker, bigger, chunkier brush strokes in that area, and it has the same effect except in a formal sense of describing less clarity in an area. If you want more focus in, say, the foreground, you can start with the big beefy strokes, but then close out with a smaller brush with tinier details. So that has the result of focusing in on an area. So good job with the analogous contrast and the nice chunky brush strokes in the background here. And those smoother, chunkier brush strokes in the background are a nice soft contrast to, or a nice contrast to the really granular textures of the bush here. So you also have texture working out in that distant area. Let's see what you guys see. Yep. Foreground contrast is good. Like the textures in the ground versus the blur in the sky area. Very good. Very good. Here. I concur. I need to get a drink of water. Let's see. Going back, I'll let you guys oogle up the next one. All right. Thank you, Nicholas. Ashley is up. Streamline this process. Download it. Open it. Okay. Lovely. BRB. Alrighty. Alright, really good atmospheric perspective, especially in the trees. Look how well they diffuse and recede. I love your suggestion of more trees back here. Really, really well handled. You're really capitalizing on texture in this area. That goes to show you that just a few well-placed strokes, or in this case where you didn't paint in these linear areas, are all you need to describe, a few fuzzy light planes, a few out of focus light planes in the distance. The human brain likes to fill in blanks. That's basically what it's built to do. That's where mythologies come from. We just have to explain things. We can't handle not knowing things. So in lieu of actual information, our brains will invent information, and you can really capitalize on that psychology in your art to make art that's both kind of formally abstract and aesthetic in a material way, and then also descriptive and representational, if that's your bag. I personally do love that kind of, I'm a representational painter, but I really love hiding like little abstract paintings in my larger representational paintings. And I really like heavy brush strokes because that allows me to play around with that that idea of painterliness and that material formal aesthetic quality. Love these what do you call them? Bookshelf fungus? I don't know. Love the fungus, love the textures on the bark, love the nice heavy light planes on these rocks. Now your light planes are a bit mixed up. Notice that the light planes on all of these guys to the left side, the light's coming from the right, and then it seems the exact opposite over here. Now, you can play with things like that. That can suggest that there's a floating light somewhere right here. Perhaps if we had some kind of glaring floating mystical orb or something, that would make a lot more sense. But as far as a natural light key goes, you really want to be super controlled overall. You have to imagine the world beyond the picture plane, you know, specifically where's the sun in the sky. Great atmospheric perspective, great textures. Foreshadowing looks good indeed. Yep, great. Have a good highlight within them. I can see lots of texture and detail as well. All right, good comments, folks. Moving on. Great job. Mackenzie. Document conversion in progress. Open it. Ta-da! Hey, how come it doesn't work like this all the time? Nice. Nice reflections. Really nice atmospheric perspective. You even do a great job of implying there's like a hanging mist here beneath the peaks of the mountains. That's really well done. Now, my only suggestion here is that you're doing a good job with the atmospheric perspective, but the foreshortening is a bit off. You see the trees way back here seem like they're the same scale as the trees back there. Even if we imagine that they were, you know, only this tall, they're pretty much equally as wide as we'd expect the top part here to be. I see that working out a lot better in this area. Those tiny little peaks back there really help. But I don't want to knock your perspective too much, because I love what's happening in this reflection here. It's really implying sort of a three-point perspective, which we'll briefly touch on. But in a nutshell, really this whole thing has great three-point perspective. But in a nutshell, if you're looking down at a forest from a bird's eye view, then as trees come towards you, they're going to have the illusion of spreading out further apart as they advance. And she's doing a really nice job of that here. You see all these trees are kind of radiating from the shoreline, and that illusion is maintained. You see, she doesn't do a 2D reflection. If it were a 2D reflection, that was just a perfect inversion of this, then the tree would be pointing in that direction. But she keeps the three-point perspective working. So in a three-point perspective drawing, the third point in this case would be way down at the center of the earth. So that's what the peaks of these reflections are all pointing at. Really good job. The kind of blocky way you've painted in the values in the mountains is really good. Contrasting that against the leafier textures in the trees, those rectangular brush strokes are really implying a craggy, kind of faceted, rocky surface. Excellent. Really good. Really good job. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Good comments. Rich with the foreshadowing. Indeed. Another good one. You guys are knocking it out of the park with these. Mackenzie, Joshua, and Abby. What's a HEIC file? What? Let's see. Will it convert this? Allow. Sure. What's a hike? I don't know what to open it with. Alright. Let's see if we can open it through D2L. Let's see. Well, what does publish mean? I have no idea what kind of file that is. Can anybody clue me in? Would Photoshop open a file like this? Let's see. Where are you at, Photoshop? Alright, let's see if I can dump you in here. Hello? Okay, well, I can't open it on Windows. Okay, so it seems like you're photographing with an SLR or, you know, a dedicated camera rather than your phone, so it's saving it in camera raw format, which I'm not able to open on my, well, it must be camera raw for Apple iOS. So a Google Doc file. Okay, all right. This might be a blessing in disguise. No surprise. No surprises. All right, let's see. Google Doc. I tried to upload. It did not work. Oh, sorry, Stefan. Well, if it's getting down to the wire, uploading something is more important than finishing that something. So, yeah, just try not to cut it so close to the wire. Alright, still, this Google problem. Any suggestions? Any suggestions? Google Docs, man. I don't know nothing about no Google Docs. Well, definitely get it into me so I can grade it at least in a JPEG format. So, let's see. So I got your name in the on-time submissions. So you can still submit it in the late folder, and I'll know that you're present here. All right, last but not least, Abby. All right, kind of impressionistic, especially in the clouds with that kind of dappled brushstroke. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. There we go. I like this cliff here, and what's really making it seem like it's in our face is how sharp this line is. So we're talking about tons of ways to describe volume and depth. This is all in line with that camera focus issue. But you can use your edges in, even in an abstract picture, sharp edges will want to describe a big difference between the two sides of that edge, and soft edges describe close proximity. So for instance, if I were doing a painting of myself, and I wanted to imply that this screwdriver is in my hand but floating well in front of my body, then the contours of the screwdriver immediately around the fist, I would want those edges to be nice and kind of soft and bled relatively to the tip, which I would want to use razor sharp edges so that it would imply a lot of distance here. So you're doing that really well in this cliff as a whole. Now how dark the trees are here, it could have generated a lot more depth even still if they were a lighter value. And you're doing a good job with linear perspective with these trees. The scale of this tree seems proportional with the scale of that tree when you factor in perspective. So linear perspective is really tight here. The atmospheric perspective could be a bit more gradient. If we can barely make out what's on the horizon because it's so light compared to the sky, you're doing it right. So I see a bit of that happening here. So yeah, if you see this tree here, if those in the distance were that light, then the linear perspective of this picture would be reinforced by a really nice kind of airy perspective as well. Atmosphere, that's what they call it. Let's see what you guys are saying. Really love the textures. Really nice for shortening. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Foreshadowing, I think, is a literary device. Foreshadowing something in the future of the plot. Foreshortening is when things get bigger as they advance towards you. The contrast is good, and I did mention, yeah, that contrast is a great way to generate some depth as well. Though you want to give the foreground object the contrast. So if we had some really rich, deep, dark, black shadows on the side of the cliff here, and if the trees instead were more along the lines of this gray, I think the contrast would reinforce the atmosphere, which would reinforce the linear perspective. So as far as edges and linear perspective goes, you're in good shape. You're going to be in good shape for the project we're going to start on Thursday. Great. Good job. Good job. So that does it, I believe. Let's have another look. Maybe I'm skipping a page here, but that's not 20. Yeah, I think that's all we've got. Great. I think this worked out well. How do you guys feel about the delay? Was it, well, distracting? I don't know. It seemed to work well for me. So we're going to do this the same way unless you guys mutiny. Now, on Thursday, we're going to do a 1-point perspective demo. We're going to be doing demos here on out for the next couple of weeks, talking about 1-point perspectives and 2-point perspective. So that's what you guys can expect. So I'll be able to communicate you with the chat. The delay isn't super bad. Good, good. Who are you, Aura Master, by the way? So be prepared with your ruler and your graphite pencils. Great, thank you, Sir Price. And if you want to prepare even more, a T-square is really going to come in handy. If you just happen to have a T-square laying around, like I do, because I went to art school in the 90s and we actually did tabletop graphic design rather than computer-based graphic design, if that makes any sense. T-square. So one of these rulers. I'll be showing you how to use them in the demo, but this really makes drawing perfect horizontals and perfect verticals much, much easier. So I highly recommend getting one of those. If you've got the expendable, well, nobody should be going out to shop, should we? All right, if you have one laying around, great. If not, I'll show you how to be super careful and get really nice horizontals and verticals. All right, so I don't want to talk your ears off. Let's see. It started with a delay, but it evened out quickly. Awesome. Great. I like it too. I'll see you guys on Thursday. This was fun. And stay inside. Be safe. Bye-bye.